What's up, Vibers? I am super excited to bring you this beginner's guide on Carbine, our brand new hunter hitting the breach this week. So my goal for this video is to take you from no knowledge of this hunter to being able to play him at somewhat of a decent level your very first time. And we're going to do that by talking through his abilities and their synergy with each other, take a look at some combos as well as some potential build options. All right, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this hunter. His kit's pretty straightforward, but it's also got some depth to it. It reminds me of Ghost a little bit in that way. If I had to describe him in one kind of sentence to you, and in terms you would know, he basically feels to me like right in between Bishop and Shiv with like a little bit of Ghost in there. He's got this really feel-good LMB. He's got the classic ground dash, air dash, but the air dash is like a jetpack booster, like feels a lot like wings. He's got this Shrike bird that like turns into a anti-mobility field, basically this big stun wall. And then he also has this really awesome, just like point blank ghost grenade wall stun knockback, basically. And if you put it all together, he has this really feel-good burst combo where if my drone's looking good, I can basically do a lot of damage. All right, so let's kick things off taking a look at the LMB, the XT3 Heavy Blaster. So it's basically a 3-shooter instead of a 6-shooter. Think of it I think of it like a pistol, basically. It's a laser pistol. And the main thing you want to pay attention to with the reload is it has a really fast reload time. See the little red here on the bottom left? However, just one tick of the reload will reload all 3 bullets. So in general, you want to be sort of dumping clip, and one kind of tick of the bar is going to give you all 3 shots back. And basically, if you just hold it down, it results in, basically just a shot timing pretty much like this. Fire a blaster projectile dealing damage can quickly be fired up to 3 times before reloading. The first shot from a full cartridge deals extra bonus damage at long range. So what is long range? We look at the range of this auto. It's a pretty decent range, honestly, for this pistol. He's definitely like sort of like a mid-range skirmish character. And if we take a look at what is considered long range for this first shot of the cartridge, it's pretty close still. So if we take a look here, this is probably right on the border. See how it's 174? If I back up a little bit here, it's 271. And so somewhere, it's 271 right here, 174 right there. So somewhere right around this far away is when you're going to get the bonus range damage on this first shot. And we can see it's pretty significant difference. Like I don't have any ability power under it right now, but that's pretty close. And here we're like right on the edge here because I just did it for... As I moved up, it procced, and then I shot her again. It didn't. There, it procced there. And it doesn't proc over here. So if I shoot her in the foot, it doesn't proc. If I shoot her in the face, it procs. So yeah, we're literally like right on the line. And so basically, you can still get a lot of damage through point blank, and it's definitely worth shooting like that sometimes. But in general, from there all the way back to like your max range is where you're going to be getting, kind of the most value out of the, just dumping the 3 shots. Now, there's also a very interesting interaction with this where there are certain situations where it feels good to hold it, and there are certain situations where it feels good to click it. And I think you should kind of, play with them and feel, which one kind of feels natural to you, and you can kind of lean into that one if you want. But in general, it feels like holding it down is going to be a little more valuable when you're using it in combo with his other abilities. So for example, the shift gives you a free shot of it. So if I'm like shifting in, that's a situation where holding it feels really good. However, if you're like, trying to shoot someone that's sidestepping, if you're just like skirmishing, I think you can get more precision aim out of clicking it, and you can click it with the same timing. In fact, you can click it even faster. Just because I was curious, I was experimenting with this. So if we take a look at these 2 clips side by side and we let them play out over just a little bit of time, you can see in the clip that I'm clicking, I'm actually getting a little more tempo. It's not much, right? But over the course of many shots, you end up getting a couple more shots through. So yeah, just in general with this guy, a huge part of his kit is going to be connecting your auto damage. So you just want to practice a little bit the auto timing, like, either clicking it or holding it and flicking it if that's more comfortable for you. But yeah, just something we're thinking about that I was feeling out quite a bit on the LMB that was making a difference. So let's use that opportunity to dive right into the shift, because as we saw there's some really nice synergy between the shifts and the XT3 Heavy Blaster. So we have a classic ground dash, air dash situation going on. We have thrusters on the ground, and we have our jetpack in the air, and they are both on separate cooldowns. So move with a burst of speed in your facing direction. After dashing, gain 1 bonus empowered shot of the XT3 Heavy Blaster that we were just looking at that slows enemies. And so, normally this is just going to be a regular auto attack, but if we do it off the back of our ground dash, it's going to give us a little slow attached. On top of that, it's like an entirely separate bullet. And so if we look at my clip down here, when I shift, see how there's nothing there? That's my empowered shot. And you can see the little glow there at the tip of my pistol when I shift. That's basically, you know, the amount of time you have to shoot that empowered shot. And that doesn't count as a bullet. So essentially what that means is when you shift, you have 4 in the chamber. And because you have 2 shifts, your jetpack doing the same thing, you actually have 5 in the chamber if you're willing to commit both your dashes, which isn't necessarily a good idea a lot of the time. But if you are trying to just, you know, max pump, put out as much DPS as possible in a short amount of time, you can essentially use both shifts to get out 5 shots very quickly. Hover in your facing direction for 0.8 seconds, launching upward over short obstacles. When colliding with them, gain 1 bonus empowered shot of XT3 Heavy Blaster that slows enemies. So taking a look at our dashes, they actually have the same cooldown, 10.5 seconds each, but they are on completely separate cooldowns. So we have the ground dash, and then we have the jetpack air dash. And the jetpack, it feels pretty dang good. It's almost like built-in hover wings. If you like the way hover wings feels, where it sort of trajects you with some momentum in a certain direction that you travel while you can do other actions. It has that same exact kind of vibe. And really the value here, right, if you think about it, is, when you're shooting, if you try to control out, you suffer this move speed slow, right? And when you actually take a shot, you suffer this move speed slow. See, when I actually fire a bullet, how I slow down for a split second, you can actually see it in bottom right. See my move speed? That's, basically the attack speed slow. So in a situation where you're using like hover wings, or in a situation like this now where you have a jetpack, you can basically, do both those things. You can control out and you can take shots without suffering those penalties. And you can also do, like same thing you can with wings, like likely all kinds of other cool stuff while you're in this kind of hover state. Now, the downside to that is the momentum has a bit of like trajectory to it, and it can be sort of predicted by enemies. Imagine a kingpin's lurking or something, he sees you do that. It kind of has some momentum, and if you don't know, there's like, you can kind of be turning and moving in any direction, and it feels like there's no way to cancel it. And so you can feel kind of like stuck in it. But what you can do, you can just completely cancel it with a glide. And so if for whatever reason you need to get out of it, you can just, and you can do it much faster than that. You can just insta glide cancel it. And just be right out of the, you don't want to do that. And if you commit just a little bit longer to the glide, you can actually like turn your momentum all the way around from like you're traveling this way. If you get your glide going even just a little back to the left, you can actually get your shift going back to the left. Whereas if you just try to glide cancel, instantly shift, like you don't get very far back the other way. See what I mean? So if you just commit like another kind of like half second to the glide, if you really do need to get the hell out, that's how you want to sort of like cancel the air dash momentum. Obviously, don't do that if someone could spike you right there. I think in a lot of situations, as long as you look around your bubble and there's no projectiles. All right, now let's take a look at probably the coolest thing with the shift, which kind of has like Krista vibes on the way her kind of dashing in and out can reset her auto, like the way her shift plays into her auto. He has a similar kind of vibe. All right, so let's take a look at that. So basically, if I shift forward, it's going to give me a free shot. And basically what you want to do is, if you do them at the same time, check out this. So look at my range here. Like, let's say I'm just barely short of my range on her. If I press shift and L and B at the same exact time, this first empowered shot is going to miss. It's going to be right here. It's going to be short, and the other 3 are going to hit. Watch. So I hit 3 shots, but the very first one missed if I press them at the same time. However, if I press shift barely before I press L and B, so if I go shift left click, if I go, literally just like boom, boom, as kind of as fast as I can, it will put the auto at the range after the shift. So if I do the same exact thing here at max range, except I go shift boom, see how I hit 4 shots instead of 3? And they basically come out, the first 2 come out like almost instantly together. So essentially when you are shifting forward, you don't want to do it at the same time. You want to do L and B right after shift. Literally shift and just like hold L and B, and you can essentially just pump 4 shots through. And you see right there, basically if you jump and do it, which is a tendency I'm trying to get myself to stop doing, it will sort of send you past your target. You're gonna have to have really good tracking to hit all your shots. So in general, what I've found is the left shift on the ground feels really good. to use aggressively for like entry, and then it feels like you really want to hold your jetpack for the escape plan. And the jetpack plays very similar to like it feels weirdly like the bishop shift in a way, the way you can kind of play backward with it, and it's this really nice bump up like over terrain where you can get this kind of nice extra height. It's a little better on stuff, yeah, like a little more your level. You can get this nice little bump out of it and gain extra momentum. And, you know, doing that backward when you're trying to like, you know, you're peeling for yourself and you're just like trying to pump damage as you're kiting, like shifting backward and getting that extra bump and being able to still control out, you know, while you're doing that, being able to still shoot while you're kind of max speed shifting backward. I think it just has really good value there. And a lot of times if you use it to try to shift into enemies, you know, kind of send you past them, which could be, you know, situationally useful, but just something to keep in mind. And with the ground dash, if you use them kind of in combination that way, where you ground dash in and air dash out, you can basically get the 5-shot combo. All right, so same thing, like I'm at max range. If I shift, then hold LMB, then for the last shot, I jump and shift out. You can basically pump 5 shots and be, you know, at your long range to count this extra, you know, first one from the clip. And that's that angle right there. If you're willing to commit your dashes, you should definitely not always be doing this, by the way. And there's a better version of this that includes your drone as well as your R&B that we saw at the very beginning, and we're going to get to the full combo as we look at those 2 abilities next. But basically, you know, the simple version of that combo is just this 5-shot combo. So you do want to get, and the very first version of this 5-shot combo is just the shift part. So you want to get comfortable just with shifting, you know, whether it's forward or whether it's to the side if you're, you know, skirmishing with someone, or it's backward if you're kiting multiple people. You, regardless of which direction you're doing it in and how you're using it, I think you want to get comfortable basically hitting shift and LMBing right after and holding that LMB down and trying to connect, like just track on them with your cursor and trying to hit all those shots. So it's the same exact thing, except on this 4-shot, you jump into the air and just, you know, shift backward, shift forward to chase, shift backward to kite, shift to the side for whatever. Like, you know, you can do it. There's a bunch of different use cases, but I think just the combo itself, knowing that it exists and knowing that you can put out kind of max damage with it quickly, especially if you're ahead on items, it can do an incredible amount of damage. All right, now let's take a look at the next part of the kit, which is really, really cool. It's literally like a hand cannon, like ghost grenade. Think of it like just a ghost grenade that you can punch people with. The main difference here is it's not going to have the same duration of stun. It has a pretty good knockback, and I was testing it. It doesn't seem like the range, like where you do it in the cone, really affects anything. And it has a pretty generous hitbox. Like we can see, like even on the edge, like right, even where the graphic doesn't even show, I'm still hitting her, right? So it's pretty decently far out there. And it does have this nice wall stun, but it doesn't last for super long. It's pretty quick. And even like not against the strike bot, just against like actual bots in game that behave more like players, it's a pretty quick stun. And this can basically be used in multiple ways. Let's go ahead and read it. After a half-second warm-up, knock back enemies in a cone, dealing damage and stunning enemies that are hit into terrain. And this is called Percussive Burst, and using the left shift to basically look for like a ghost grenade angle with the R&B, like again, feels like a pretty favorable way to use the left shift. And so looking for something, you know, where you use it to find an angle on terrain, and when you do that, you have the empowered shot, and so you can actually dump 4 shots into that stun. They're going to be coming out of the stun somewhere around like the 3rd or 4th shot, and so you're going to want to try to be tracking and kind of predicting their movement, where they're going to be trying to going out of it to hit all of them a lot of time. But using the left shift aggressively is a lot of times going to give you the angle that you need, and the stun is going to guarantee just like a crazy amount of damage. Before we move on to the rest of the abilities, this is like a really good time to quickly talk about the passive, because it interacts directly with the LMB and the shift. So it's called Enmity. What is that word? Enmity Core. Hits on enemy hunters with the XT3 Heavy Blaster, our LMB, partially refund the cooldown of thrusters, our left shift. Knocks and kills refund 1 charge of our ultimate while the ability is active. This is like, you can think of this basically, I can, think of this basically like Bishop passive. The way when she's connecting her LMBs, it gives her the direct rocket. It gives her that cooldown reduction on her shift. Like, this is basically the same exact idea. And so as you're using the shift aggressively here to go in, the more of these shots you connect, basically the more CDR you're going to get on your ability to shift again. Now, keep in mind the wording here, guys. This says partially refund the cooldown of thrusters left shift. It does not say jetpack left shift. And we can see one's called thrusters, one's called jetpack. And so I'm pretty sure this passive interaction is basically only with our ground dash. So even more reason to sort of use the ground dash offensively to look for these angles, because every shot you're connecting, I don't know if it counts on this strike monstrosity of a bot, but basically every one of these LMBs you connect, after you shift forward aggressively, is giving you CDR on that shift, but you wouldn't be getting that same CDR on air dash. And so again, another good reason after you look for that entry, if they're running or if there's a good kill angle, it's always risky to double shift forward. I end up doing it way too much on all characters, but really like holding the other left shift for your way out has just been feeling really good to me, killing like thousands of bots today. Okay, getting to maybe like one of his coolest abilities, the Shocktrap drone. Launch a scanning drone that gives a vision of enemies. Re-trigger to explode the drone, slowing enemies and creating a trap. The explosion grants lingering vision of the area for a short duration. Trap walls stun enemies on impact and self-destruct. So, check this out. It feels basically like a Shrike bird when you shoot it. It's this long range, essentially vision. And when it deploys, instead of being just like a bird, it basically turns into this half wall, like a half circle of it's like an anti-mobility field, basically, where if someone, except it's more powerful, if anyone even connects with the wall at any point, they'll get stunned. They don't even have to like dash through it or anything. It's just like if they touch the wall, they get stunned, and then that chunk of the wall detonates. Oh, too long in practice to him, man. All right, we're back in. So the Q, if you throw it, look at how it looks like visually when I throw it here. See this like radius? That's basically the slow radius, where if you trigger it on someone during that path, it's gonna do the slow, right? So that's kind of your target if you're looking for the slow effect. However, the main kind of effect you're going to get out of it is this crazy like anti-mobility wall stun. So not only is this intel or vision, it's really just an extremely powerful sort of like engage tool, not only for him but for his team to like follow up on. And whether you are looking to peel, so if you're looking to use it right in front of you and you just like spam the hell out of it, that's like about as short as you can throw it. And we saw before, if I reset here and throw another one deeper, I'm just going to let it go without hitting it. That's kind of max range right there of how far it's going to go. And so just, think about it even without the combo. If you're chasing someone or if you're just like looking to get an advantage of that on them in a fight, if you find an angle with a good drone and you catch them in the slow, all of a sudden they're slowed within your auto range. So you can immediately follow that with autos, right? And they basically have to like turn around, face you, and find their way around this wall. They either have to trade with you, or they have to eat a stun to the face, or they have to like, find an angle to dash left or right if they don't want to fight you. But if you are able to connect a drone, especially if they're split a little bit from their team or something, it can really give you and your team a really good angle to engage on someone. And you can try to like activate it to where you put the wall stun directly on someone. That can work, but we see there's like a split-second delay with the wall stun. And so really, I think the best way to use this overall is to engage into it with your shift. And it combos really well with the R&B. So you think about this R&B knockback. You can essentially knock people back into your little, half circle you've made here, your little death trap. You can basically throw the cage and then have a really kind of wide angle. And we see the R&B is basically the same, kind of width as the cage here. And so you can really just pin not only one person, but like multiple people in. So imagine the Shrike is like clumped with her team there, and you do find an angle, for this, and you get a good R&B off it. You're going to be, setting you and your team up to just pump damage. But you can also shift in for that, right? So I can throw the bird or the drone, and if it's looking good, I can shift and, you know, shoot my shot. And if I R&B there with that shift, that time I accidentally hit her with the wall stun directly. But if I throw it, you know, a little behind her and I want to get the wall stun, I can shift R&B and then dump clip into that wall stun instead of actually having to hit her on terrain. So you essentially use the Q to create terrain for yourself to secure really powerful R&Bs. And you can essentially use the slow to do that. And then off of that stun, you can just hold down the LMB and dump all 4 shots because you have the extra empower shot from shifting forward. And just like we looked at before, kind of getting closer to the full combo here, after you dump those 4 shots, if you want to, you can burn the 5th shot with the shift out. And then once you are out here, we can rip the ulti and go for like finish, you know, kill damage. Like if you do that whole combo and they're not dead yet and they're in a situation where you can kill, like that's a perfect situation to just rip the ult. And like we discussed, like the air dash backward puts us basically at max range to look for snipe, you know, kill shots with our overkill rounds. So this is our ultimate R. Overcharge your XT3 heavy blaster, our LMB, gaining 2 long-range shots that deal big damage and pierce enemies, destructibles, and wisps. The shots create lingering vision zones on projectile death that persist for a short duration. Refund an additional shot on knocking an enemy or destroying a wisp. So this bottom line is the same bottom line we see over here on our passive that we looked at before, where essentially if we're using our ultimate and we're securing kills with it, putting people into the wisp state or eliminating wisps with it, it is going to give us it says 1 charge. And what I've found is oftentimes it feels like more than 1 charge. It feels like sometimes if I get a kill, I'll actually get 2 shots back. And I've had sequences of shooting like 6 to 8 shots in a row because it will basically keep resetting. And sometimes the reset gives you multiple rounds of it back. So we take a look at this baby. It is a pretty deep range as well. So we can pop it and it also lasts for quite a while. So if we pop the charge here, we can see the cooldown starts and I'm still holding on to it. So we have a good chunk of time to shoot these 2 shots. And we can see it's probably like a little more than double the range. And we can shoot it pretty quick if we want. And, you know, intuitively, it kind of feels like a railgun, but the main thing is it doesn't pierce terrain. So it'll pierce destructibles, it'll pierce players, but it won't shoot through walls. And it's also got this really interesting like lingering vision zone there where, check this out, like if I'm looking out here into like kind of the fog of war, if I shoot the R, look at this little circle. See if I look away with my control, see how this little circle's out here where I can see there for a sec. It's probably like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe like 5 seconds ish of vision you get at the end of each shot. So just another little like add to his kind of kit as far as like scouting, or even if you're missing the ult shots, you can get your team some intel on vision. And especially if you're building double tech, which we'll talk about, like you can get the cooldown on this feeling pretty dang short. So potentially situations where you might even want to be using the ulti strictly for that vision in the right situations endgame. Yeah, so it's like pretty simple. It's just a giant cannon. You just want to try to just blast people in the face with it. You know, if you are using your air dash, that's like, especially like over Abyss, if you're kiting people out, it feels like a really good time to kind of use the ultimate and play that super deep max range snipe. The same way Ghost Laser is really good at like sniping people spiking, because oftentimes you can get a shot through it's like off someone's screen where if they're not looking for the little projectile predict, like they just get roasted. And I think a really good way to use the ulti, similar to how Brawl likes to use his ulti sometimes, is there are certain situations where putting someone into the death box, if they're in the wisp state and there's a chance they're going to get revived, is very valuable, like almost as valuable as killing someone, because, you know, it forces the enemy team to have to go play around a crown, play around a res beacon, instead of just, you know, it's kind of trading that kill back for free, just like standing on them and getting them up. So I think a lot there, you'll find that you want to use this, you know, obviously to try to get kills, but especially as you're getting extra shots, if there's like wisps laying around the fight, especially like multiple wisps where you can line up in like one shot, like you can really just decimate the battlefield, especially if you're third partying and there's already kind of wisps out there. Like you can rip this, snipe 3 wisps, and then still, you know, have your fully loaded shots because it's resetting to actually try to kill players as they're murdering each other, right? So you know, there's just like a lot of value, I think, that you're going to end up finding punishing you know, Wisp this way, really, especially with the, you know, potential rise of Eva and like some more healing support characters. Like using this as a Wisp destroyer, I think is going to end up being really strong. But we can also use it as part of the full combo that we were looking at the very beginning, and we've sort of been building up to this throughout, right? So we've kind of started with the shift and the way the shift interacts with the LMB, where we get the extra LMB. We can dump 4 if we want to. We can commit the 5th one on the way out with the air dash, right? And that's kind of the first part of the combo. Then we saw we can add in the percussion burst. So if I shift forward, get the percussion burst, and then I dump clip and I add, you want to hit the last one, the shift out, you can get 5 shots in. And then we looked at if you don't have a wall around for that percussion burst, or if you're just feeling like working someone out of nowhere, you can throw your drone out and it can essentially behave like that wall. And especially if you see an enemy team clumped, this is a really good time to sort of add the drone into the full combo. So the way you want to do this mechanically to basically guarantee it is if the drone is looking good. So if you Q1 and it looks like it's going to be a, you know, a good cage to set this up, you basically want to use the second use of your drone. So hit Q2, shift in and RMB all at the same time. And if you literally hit all 3 inputs like identically, like right at the same time, it'll put you in a situation where you shift forward as you're charging your RMB like this, and put you in a situation where the cage is behind them right as it's coming up, and it will like insta detonate, stun them. And then off of that, you can just hold LMB and like dump clip like we've been talking about the whole time right off of the RMB stun. So I see Shrike, I throw a Q, it's looking good. I hit them all at the same time. And you don't want to air dash like that. The air dash, you can air dash, but it's going to send you past them and it's not going to have the same kind of effect of the combo. You really want to ground dash it in and have the air dash for the way out. It just feels significantly better. So we Q1, it's looking good. We hit them all at the same time. We get the stun. And the final step on our way out, if all that's looking good and we need to confirm a kill, we can rip our ulti, lock that in, hopefully get that kill, get an ulti reset, and continue pumping damage on the battlefield. If we do get extra shots and there's wisps laying around, we decimate the wisps. So like full speed here, if the Q1's looking good. Blam. And just to slow it down one more time for you guys, so you can just like see the whole thing, full combo, I'll just do it step by step. You Q, if that Q is looking good, you want to use the second use of Q, left shift and RMB all at the same time. So Q1 is looking good here. Press all 3 together, and then you just hold LMB. So as soon as you kind of press all 3 together, it's going to put you right in here. Then you just want to hold LMB. You're going to dump your 3 shots, probably right around the 3rd shot. They're going to actually get out of that stun. So you do want to be trying to like track them for the 4th shot. And then you can basically use the 5th shot, either, you know, if they're running, you can use the air dash forward to chase for the 5th shot, or you can, like we've been showing, you can use the air dash backward to peel out. You know, you can obviously use it side to side. Definitely a little harder to hit. If you do try to use it side to side, you got to track a lot better. But either way, essentially, if you, as soon as you finish the last shot of that clip, that's when you want to be in the air and using that shift to give you that instant 5th shot, right? And then wherever that puts you, if they're within kill range, you know, you want to rip the ulti at the end of the air dash and just try to, you know, pump for the kill, try to get, you know, more kills on other people that are low, snipe wisps, etc. Do bounty hunter things, man, your carbine. All right, let's take a look at what are some potential build options you could look at. And, you know, this is like, the items just keep changing, and they often change even these ability upgrades and such. And so I don't expect it to change much on a brand new hunter, but all this stuff could definitely change. If there's updated build stuff that I'm aware of, I'll try to keep that in the pinned comment, but I'm just going to kind of give you some ideas to work with here off the bat, because I do think he has a couple sort of clear angles you could build him that lean into different play styles that all could be effective depending on how you want to play him and your kind of personal take. So let's start with what I think is probably going to be one of the strongest setups, and it was one of the ones that felt best to me when I'm just grinding bots all day today. trying to figure this guy out, and it's basically running double tech. And so there's a couple different options, but let's look at a couple things. So the main point I want to make here is that it often feels like you're almost always comboing your thrusters, your shift stuff with your other abilities. They just work so well in kind of combination, like we were just looking at. And so essentially, if you don't have these other two abilities up, the shift basically, it's a shift. It's still good. It's a get out tool. It's, especially the shift backward. You can be very shisty over abyss. You can use it very well for kiting. You can get very good effect out of the little bump up. If you find the right angle on certain pieces of terrain, you can get really nice kind of, upward momentum and space. But it feels like if you're really trying to max the value of the shift, it has really good synergy with the other abilities in combination. And so I found that, if I wasn't getting pressured most of the time that I'm wanting to use shift is with these other ability cooldowns. These other abilities have pretty long cooldowns. Look at this Shocktrap drone with, even at level 3 with no tech item, 24-second cooldown. That is a long cooldown. This ability is so good, guys. Like the value you're going to end up getting out of this Shocktrap drone is going to be pretty insane. And so we kind of want that on as short of a cooldown as possible. And the more we have the Shocktrap drone up, the more we can go, for the crazy entry combo we've been looking at this whole time and just absolutely roast people, right? And so looking at a double tech angle is going to give you even just a single tech angle, right? My case here is that at least one tech blade into something is going to give you really high value. Look, it just dropped 24 seconds into 19.2 seconds. The way percentages work, guys, the bigger the number, the more the percentage effect has. Like literally, you're going to get 6 seconds off of a 24-second cooldown, whereas 20% of a 10-second cooldown is 2 seconds, right? And so because this number is so big, we're getting extra value at it. On top of that, our ult is also getting massive value here. So look, if I drop the tech blade, ult at 35 seconds, down 7 seconds here, and puts the R&B, like we just said, down 2 seconds as well. And the R&B full upgrade with a tech look has a crazy kind of synergy off of the resets you can get with this R&B if you're successfully hitting this wall bash stun. So regardless of what you do, that's my argument for taking at least one tech blade. And I think that's going to really, kind of help you be able to combo this stuff effectively. If we do want to look for, and that's just a base tech blade with no upgrades. That's literally just a white tech blade, right? 20% ability haste. But if we look for an evolution here and go the double tech blade angle. So for those of you that don't know yet, you can build double of an item, essentially just if you take the first one's evolution. So whatever this evolve ends up being, if you select it, because that turns into sort of its own unique item, you can all of a sudden have the ability to roll another tech blade. And actually what this does is whatever kind of evolution you pick, see how I picked a quick blade, all of a sudden I can't pick a quick blade for my offhand. So if you're looking to roll doubles, so for this instance, double tech, essentially selecting that evolution, then you can pick this one tech. And then off of this, you can either pick the evolution if it's good, if you like it, or you can go with one of the standard options. Like I would probably take this one, and this is like a pretty gangster double tech setup. Now we can see here, there's a little bit of diminishing return, right? Where I can see my first tech blade gives me 22 ability haste. And if I look at the tooltip on this one, it says it gives me 22. So if I pick both these up, I should have 44, right? I have 39. And so there's some amount of DR when you do build double, but it's not a crazy amount. So it's not going to slow you down too much. It's still going to give you almost 40% cooldown reduction of our abilities. And we were just looking at the numbers. Look at our ult, 21.4 seconds. Look at our Q, 14.7 seconds. By the way, this isn't even Q maxed, right? This would be more like 8 seconds, which is crazy. And the duration is way up. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. Remember, dash haste got split out from ability haste, so our shifts cooldowns are going to be the same at 10.5 seconds. However, we are getting the cooldown reduction from our passive connecting our LMBs for our left shift, our thrusters, our ground shift. And so another good reason why Quick Blade's not quite as valuable versus tech, I feel like, on this hunter. I love Quick Blade. I've been building double quick on a lot of hunters lately. It's feeling really strong to me on certain hunters that rely on shift. However, I think because of the passive cooldown reduction he gets on his ground shift and the way how important his other abilities are to him comboing, the double tech just feels really good. And what we'll take a look at right here is the fact that this percussive burst, when you connect this wall stun with it fully upgraded and you're rocking double tech, like especially like if you were just like, let's say you were just fully pinked out here and you were at 43, look at how fast that comes back up, man. It's actually crazy, right? So essentially, if you do build double tech and you upgrade percussive burst to level 4, and we can see if we read these out, each level gives us 2 seconds off the cooldown. This last one refunds 4 seconds if we get the wall stun and another 2 seconds off the base cooldown. So right now it's sitting at 5.7 seconds base, but if I hit it, that's 4 seconds and it's almost back up instantly. And so it's actually kind of insane how low of a cooldown you can actually get on this thing. And like, imagine doing that. Like if you did that with something like amplifier, you know, I'm like, amplifier is such a cheeky item, but once we're kind of here, I think the other double tech angle is the Q max. And I think this is going to be a little bit of a play style thing where if you're wanting to be, you know, more of an aggressive skirmisher and play into fights and play into your terrain, you're going to want to go with the R&B max. And I think in general, I probably, you know, my prediction is that this setup right here, double tech, rank 4 R&B is probably going to be the winner, at least at the beginning when it comes to like, you know, what people are playing, like what the meta ends up being. However, I do think there's going to be a lot of other really cool looks. And I think another really cool one could be the same exact thing build wise with your tech items here, except going Q max instead. You got to dip out of practice tool to change your ability max. So I just, freeze everything. So these are both still double tech, right? But with Q max here, and we can see it's going to last way longer. So if you're looking to use it more for like zone control and less for like a crazy engage tool, I think this setup is going to be really big because we can see it's up and I can just throw another one. And you could literally have some significant amount of time with 2 traps out. Maybe what, like 3-4 seconds of overlap there. You know, if you're looking to be more of a space holding, like zone controlling version of Carbine, I think this could be like a really cool look and like have a lot of validity to it. And even if you're using the Q offensively, the Q max could be good, right? I just think, especially if you're using the R&B max in skirmishes, because you can just kind of freehand hit an R&B max and get the value out of this level 4. And even without the full combo, right? Like even without doing anything crazy, literally just, you know, shifting in on someone and hitting an R&B is going to instantly reset this. And you know, I think this one is going to be more for like your solo Q hero pop off, and this one's going to be more for like your team play utility, more like support Carbine angle, playing more for your vision, more for your team, more for the setup, essentially. And remember, guys, not only is this a crazy wall, it's a super long vision strike bird, right? So not only can you use it for the utility of the wall, you can also just be constantly, if you have it on this low of a cooldown, you'd be constantly hucking them out there and kind of, you know, having this range of, you know, intel on what's going on. We see after some amount of time, the vision cone disappears, the wall stays, right? So we lose the vision timing. The vision timing doesn't actually stay with the wall duration, which is actually interesting. I wonder if that is intended or not. Okay, so that's kind of the tech angle. I think, you know, you could look for a double quick blade angle. Just personally, it didn't feel as good to me as double quick does on other hunters. It just, like I was saying earlier, it feels like a lot of times when you're using the shift, you're trying to combo with these other abilities. And the games where I was taking double quick, basically I just felt like I wasn't getting nearly as much damage value out of just shifting and fighting that I was when I was having these cooldowns up more often to do more of like the full combos. You know, if you're looking to lean into more of just the auto play style of Carbine, especially if you're like newer to him and you're wanting to have, you know, let's say you're wanting to be able to always be using your shift in and you're wanting to have it on a really low cooldown to be able to get out as well. And you also want to, you know, you want to have this air bump off often. Let's say you're playing to anchor a little bit more in, you know, ranked because you're solo queuing and you just want to have more kind of mobility. I think there is a case to you know, go double quick. I don't think it's going to be as good as double tech. And I think honestly, what a better option might be if you are wanting to buy a quick blade is just going 1-1, where instead of going double quick, you just go tech blade, quick blade, and instead of having to, you know, do the evolution pick, you can just pick whichever ones you're feeling. And so if I was going to do that setup, I would go, I think Interweaver for your tech blade could be a good look. And I think Big Game Hunter, always a strong look because of the way it kind of scales itself and it's just like a big stat stick. However, I do think Turbo Booster actually, with the, if you are looking to play more into the Quick Blade playstyle, if you are trying to like, you know, shift in because you're actually having to ground shift, I think you are going to get some decent value out of that speed boost. So let's check it out here. If I lock in a Turbo Booster, I mean, look at this, and I'm just like looking at it here. It just doesn't like kind of add up in value. Look, it's like we have a 10.5 second shift cooldown, right? If I build a quick blade, yes, I get the move speed, so the move speed's good. We can't forget about the move speed, but we're getting like, you know, some smaller amount of dash haste. So this 13% dash haste is only going to bring us down to a 9.1 second cooldown. Keep in mind, it's affecting two cooldowns at once, right? So it is bringing down the cooldown not only of our ground shift, but our air shift at the same time. But our tech blade's doing that too, except with 3 of our buttons, right? And they're all kind of bigger cooldowns, so we're getting bigger value out of the percentages. Oh, and the base percentage is higher, right? The base percentage is like 22% instead of 13%. So, you know, again, just continuing to build my case for Tech Blade here. But if you're just insisting on using Quick Blade, we can see we get 13 here. That's going to put us at 9.1. If we grab our quick evolution here, that's going to put us at 8 seconds even. And that's going to give us with the, you know, I think with the turbo booster, it's going to give us definitely more ability to skirmish. But I do think, you know, there's a really good case where if you do want to build a turbo booster, if you want to like have the extra move speed base and you want to be relying on the speed boost from it, you know, it could be a pretty nice look actually and feel pretty good where if you just drop your evolution and you run turbo booster with interweaver or what, you know, some good tech blade evolution if you get it, I think this setup could end up feeling pretty dang good because you have the extra move speed off of the, you know, ability to skirmish with your LMB forward. You have a little bit of extra cooldown on both of these, basically a little over a second off, but you still have some significant amount of CDR on your big stuff, right? So it's going to still, you know, it's going to feel a little more tolerable than if you just build no cooldown reduction. These cooldowns feel really long, especially the Shocktrap drone just feels like an eternity if you don't have any kind of tech rolling. And so, you know, I think something like this, Turbo Inter or something like that, has a lot of viability and could be an interesting look. And same thing where, you know, if you were wanting to look into more of an omnivamp style, I think running that with the tech blade could be a look as well. So if you're wanting to lean in more to the skirmish play style like we were talking about, especially if you're like looking to RMB max, looking to constantly find these like ghost angles and just like kind of pump off of that, Swift Blade also actually could be a pretty nice look on this guy. And so if you can tolerate like having full cooldown on your other abilities, a pretty cool look could be the Turbo Booster Swift Blade here, where you're getting the move speed boost off of connecting your attacks with the heal. And so not only are you getting that decaying move speed, you're also getting the move speed when you shift in. And so you're shifting in and you're securing autos, and, you know, that's proccing this extra move speed. So you're going to kind of be, you know, extra zooming in this setup. You're going to be vamping, and the price for that is you're just going to have much longer cooldowns on your kind of combo. And so, oh, the last point here I want to make is I don't really think you want to max the left shift. It just feels pretty bad. Like we see if we take this to level 3, it doesn't give us any more cooldown reduction. It just says enhanced upward velocity on obstacle impact. And we can look here if I am, you know, right about here and I bump into this box, I go a little bit higher, but not that much higher. At least from what I can tell, right? And so, unless I'm kind of missing something here, there really doesn't feel like a big difference between the upgraded left shift and the regular left shift. And because of how crazy nutty good the R&B upgrade is, and because of how strong the Q upgrade could be if you wanted to lean into more of that utility zone control play style, it's a really tough ask to just get like another foot in the air on your shift. Like, I don't know, just the value, comparatively, the value just really doesn't seem there to me. And so we're doing it this whole time with the upgraded shift, right? Let me come back in here with the regular shift. Okay, so here's regular shift. I mean, it's like a little lower, but I mean, like, it's not that much lower. Like, literally, like maybe like 2 feet max. Um, so yeah, I'm just not sure about that. And the fact that it doesn't give you any more CDR either, like the way, this one gives you more base CDR with this extra effect. This one gives you more base CDR, way more base CDR with this extra effect. This one just gives you this extra effect that's pretty underwhelming with no extra base CDR on the shift. And so, yeah, that's kind of my case for not shift maxing. And I do think just the R&B max value, especially if you're connecting them often, is going to just be really hard to pass up for either of these in a lot of cases. I do think the Q max could be cool, like we talked about, for more of a team comp, more of a utility look on the carbine. Boom. That is it for this one, my friends. I hope that was useful. I hope that was valuable. I think this guy is wicked fun. He might be my new main. I really enjoy the feeling of the LMB. I think once you get to feel it in action yourself, you're gonna really kind of like the way it connects and the way you can combo his kit and the whole thing kind of together. Even each piece, even using each piece individually, does feel really good. And so, yeah, I just hope it was useful to you. I hope you really enjoy yourself out there blasting people on Carbine the Bounty Hunter. With that, I just want to thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember to take care of yourself and keep vibing. Catch you in the next one. Peace.